Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. I have a very great advantage today of actually speaking to Kym Hanton, who we can see on the other side of the screen here. Kym Hanton has decided that in this coming election, he is going to actually run for Spence. That's the upper north area of Adelaide. And he's running as an independent. And we all know that we need independence right now if we're going to get any sort of sense in our government at all, where we can have some sort of regulation, some way of actually controlling what they're doing, and a bit of transparency. So, Kym, welcome to this interview.
Well, thanks for having me, Vince. And, as we both know that we ran against each other in the last federal election.
We didn't do well, sort of run against, but with.
Yes.
We sort of formed an alliance back then, which is something interesting. They're actually doing that this time too. They're trying to form an alliance of independents and parties to try and knock this corporate government off its access, as to say.
Well, we tried to do that last time as well, but I mean, we've had numerous conversations, and we became friends after that election, which was good. Like, it's fantastic. Like, I met a lot of good people when I ran for Barker, but this time around, yeah, we're still going to have that dilution of the vote, which I was concerned about last election as well, because we had 5 good candidates not aligned with the major parties in that last, like in the Barker election in itself. But on the upside, Tony Passon has done better. I think he's done better this time.
Yeah, I would have to agree. He's actually really quite active, which is great. So thank you very much, Tony. That was nice to see you step up in that respect. Now, for people who don't know you, what we're going to do is just go through a little bit of your history first off, and that will also give a little bit of an explanation to the background that you're currently using. But Kym, can you tell us a little bit of where you were born, what sort of careers you've had, please?
Yeah, sure. So I am half a century now, and I don't like admitting that. So I'm 50 years old, although sometimes I act like I'm not. I was, if you want to know where I was actually born at the Theberton Hospital, which is beyond me because we've been northern suburbs pretty much our entire life. I am one of 12, if you include like the dad's like two kids and mum's 10. So the family's quite spread out. Mum's 91, so she was a bit of a baby cannon. But mum raised me and my younger sister pretty much by herself from when I was about 12. And and from there I've had jobs most of my life. I've worked in various industries. I've worked in a dump, recycling yard. I was worked in the dry cleaners, and then I managed the dry cleaners. I've been a storeman in a delivery driver for a furniture store. Then I was in defence, and I joined defence. 25 years, 1998 I joined, so 27 years ago. And then I was a copper, and then I left the cops, and then I was just taking a bit of time to myself because I spent 17 years doing that. Then I got involved in politics back in late 2021, and now I'm doing postie work. So, and I've got trying to get a handyman gardening business off the ground. So yeah, jack of all trades, master of none.
So I gather the Three Little Pigs FSG in the back is to do with your podcast, which is called the Three Little Pigs, and that's 3 coppers or ex-coppers. Is that correct?
Yeah. So originally I started a podcast called The Hands-On Experience. So the Hands-On Experience was originally started off by myself and another fellow, Thomas. And that was because we always spoke about politics and because we always had a gripe with it. And we didn't like what was happening. And that was very rough around the edges when it first started. Then Thomas had to leave because of personal reasons, not because he didn't like me or anything like that. It's just quite simply he had other things going on in his personal life that needed more attention. Then I got in Peter Rentoulis, who is actually a counsellor on at Playford Council. So he came on, and he originally was a guest as well. So we got a couple of councillors from the Playford Council to come on and talk about what they were doing and things like that. So that's what we were trying to do with that. We also tried to go into the journalistic side of things, and hence the bodies at Riverlea, and a number of other things, trying to speak to politicians like Lee Odenwater from Elizabeth, but that didn't turn out too well because Lee ran. Didn't want to talk to us at all. And then after that, I was trying to run the Three Little Pigs. So the Three Little Pigs came about because Ed Gilbert reached out to me through other channels. So we've got mutual acquaintances, and he reached out to me. And then next thing you know, he connected me with Nick White, who's the other host. And so Nick White's an ex-copper from New South Wales. Ed used to be in the Garda over in Ireland, and I used to be with SAPOL. So we started off the Three Little Pigs, which has now become the primary of the Hands-On Experience, because I don't have enough time to find a new co-host because Peter's had to leave. And with running for Parliament, that's taken a lot more time. And I've got, obviously family commitments, work commitments, and a number of other things going on. So I've just focused more on the Three Little Pigs, which is what that picture is at the back there, where we talk about, first of all, it started with policing issues. So the difference now between what we saw when we first joined. So between us, I think we've got basically almost 50 years worth of experience. So, I joined back in 2004 with SAPOL, and the culture's changed a lot, and obviously the work dynamics has changed a lot. And I've been out for 4 years now, so it's very different now again. So we were talking about like the stresses on police, the differences in the policing styles, or so to speak, now. And then it's gone on to a few other things as well, such as, child protection services. We've covered off on some horror stories from there. We've also done some stuff in regards to the nuclear testing that was occurring up at Maralinga and off the coast of WA, and the fact that Australia's been covered in fallout, and especially Adelaide. The strontium-90 exposure and the testing that's been done behind the scenes. There's a number of things now that we're slowly uncovering and we're talking about. So that's what the podcast is about. But it's also about the fact that now that we've got the beautiful thing called the internet, it's harder now for these sorts of things to be swept under the rug, so to speak. So that's I suppose, me in a nutshell. What was your last question? What made me run for Parliament?
No, I'm getting to that one, but
Okay.
it was very interesting listening to the Three Little Pigs. I think episode 9 of that one was actually chatting with a Mason and getting a bit of information from that. It's a big difference to what we hear in the free press to what they actually do, but they still run a lot of secrets, which I thought was very interesting. So if anybody does want to look for that, where would they find that sort of information, Kym?
Okay, so the Three Little Pigs, or the Hands-On Experience podcast, can be found on either Spotify or on Rumble. So if you don't have Spotify, then jump on to Rumble, and at least on Rumble as well, you can leave comments, etc., which Ed keeps an eye on.
Yep, no problems at all. They can also find those links if they want off of your kymhanton.com.au page. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yeah. So the Kym Hanton web page is up and running and is looking. I have to say, very good. The web designer on that one has done very well.
Yeah, he's just playing the game there, guys. In case you're wondering, I'm the web designer. But anyway, this is where you're going to end up putting some of your comments and bits and pieces for your run for Parliament. So why are you running this time? I mean, last time you did a hell of a lot of work and not a lot of people knew about you. So
Yes.
why are you running this time?
So obviously the last time I ran with the Australian Federation Party, and what a lot of people don't know, Trumpeter Patriots. Back in 2021, I became involved with them, and we were looking at trying to obviously create a federal party that focused on freedom of choice, freedom of movement, all that sort of thing that seemed to be being pushed to the wayside with the Wuhan special years. And from there, the Australian Federation Party had approached Nick Duffield, who was the leader of that. Well, he was the president, and I think it was El Salzone was the leader of the party at that, or the face of the party at that stage. Then from there, we obviously got put forward as candidates. The problem with the Australian Federation Party is quite simply they seem to be more of a pop-up party than what I would have liked them to have been. No one knew about them. No one knew about me, and we were pretty much left to our own devices, which is where I was blessed to come across yourself and Maddie as well. Because you guys looked after me when it came to Mount Gambier, and I come across you guys. You helped me out, and I got more exposure talking to people. So that was a bonus. Because as far as the party goes, it was a shambles. But I learnt a lot, and you're right. Not many people knew about me. The reason why the party had picked me is because I was taking my little siesta from working. I spent a lot of time down the river, so they thought, well, I'd be the best person for that. This time around, I wasn't going to run for the federal. I was not going to run. I was going to focus on maybe trying to run on the state level. But I looked at what the local member, Matt Burnell, was doing or not doing, so to speak, and I was looking at the impact that there was in the north, like the northern suburbs. We've lost Holdens, we've lost Levi's, and they were the two major employers in our region. And the people are doing it hard, and there didn't seem to be anything positive being put forward by Burnell other than he's throwing money around like it's going out of fashion, but that's our money. It's just, we're in debt up to our eyeballs as a country, and somehow they're finding all this money to throw around, but we're not working, they're not working in unison either. Like the councils are just as guilty, and so is the state government. And the left hand's not talking to the right, and I want to see changes there, because at the end of the day, my daughter's about to, she's going to inherit this stuff, and everyone else's kids are going to inherit this mess. And if we don't start stepping up and start looking at trying to improve not only our infrastructure, but the way that we live and where we're going as a country, then we're just going to leave a big steaming pile for the kids of tomorrow. And that's why I'm running. I'm quite literally had a gutful of politicians literally handing out candy, so to speak, when it counts, so that people don't pay attention to what's going on in the background. And there is a lot going on in Parliament. There are bills being passed almost, every day that there is sitting in Parliament, like numerous. And, you see your politicians sitting there falling asleep in Parliament. It's because they're sitting there for long hours, and it's boring. Like, they're obviously bored because there's heaps of bills going through. Sometimes they're there until after 12 o'clock, trying to, either if you're Labor and Liberal, you're trying to push through, your pay rises and looking after the major parties with the electoral act changes and things like that. But there's other bills happening as well. But that's why I'm running. I've had a gutful of, and I've said this last election as well. You know me well enough to know that words are one thing, actions are another, and they only act or come out of the woodwork come election time. And I've been involved in politics ever since I ran. So I don't know, mate. I've got to give it a go, right? You've got to be in the race to try and win it.
Yeah. So what's some of the things you're seeing in your local area of Spence that you think need to be addressed?
Oh, crikey. Where do we start? Well, first of all, our roads are crap. We have some major issues with roads. And I don't want to bring up Curtis Road because that's not the primary, like that's not the only problem with our road system, but it certainly is one of the major issues for those people living in this region, especially in the Playford region. And now that's a council road, and it shouldn't be. It's been far more than just a suburban road for quite some time. Then you've got other roads like Dalkeith Road, Walmer Road, Anglevale Road, all these roads that do not receive the attention that they need, and that has a lot to do with councils not having the funding, because their main source of income is rates and also what they get from the state government. So they can't fund it. The state government's unwilling to fund it unless they get some kind of perks, I guess, in regards to it. And then you've got obviously the federal government not taking accountability for the fact that they built the Northern Expressway. So then we got roads. Then we got infrastructure such as water. Power bills are going through the roof. I mean, we were leading the charge for the green alternative that isn't so green. So South Australia has been leading that charge. But what people don't understand in regards to that as well is the taxpayers' money is going into each turbine is getting, I think it is $500,000 per turbine, not per farm, but per turbine. Our farming land has been taken over by like solar farms. People don't understand how the solar panels are made. It's quartz and coal, so you still need to mine the coal to make those. So we literally are. In regards to that, there's another issue when you go to the cost of living. Then you've got our medical issues. Like Malinowski's government has given us more ambulances, which is great. That's more ambulances parked up at hospitals. Then you've got talk about building more hospitals. They've expanded the Lyell McEwen Hospital, but there's no point expanding the hospital if we can't put the nurses and doctors in there. Because you make a bigger hospital, there's still, if you've got no staff to put in there and you're working them like too hard and they're burning out, you're going to lose them. So there seems to be no forward planning. And then we've got houses going on the food bowl. So we've got the green belt, which is some fertile farming land here, and now we're just encroaching with the urban sprawl. So instead of actually thinking forward, we're looking at short-term solutions, like to the housing problem. We're looking at short-term solutions instead of thinking about the impact that we're gonna have should we encroach on our food bowl too much. We've got no farming land, and the further north we go, the drier it gets. So the harder it's going to be to grow food. So we really need to find that happy balance, and I don't think our politicians are focusing on anything further than 4 years. So, or 3 years when you're looking at the federal parliament. So every 3 years they start looking and going, okay, how much candy can I throw at the punters? Keep them happy. Make sure they vote for me. I mean, we saw what happened in the WA elections. I don't understand it. But again, they are the issues out here. We've got people being jammed in like sardines. You got, if you're looking at local issues, housing estates, you literally got no room to park. Your houses are like small blocks. Your driveways are not big enough for the cars. Then you got to park on the road, and then the council gets pissed off of you. People can't get cars through because there's too many cars on the road. So instead of actually trying to work together to fix these issues, we're going to have to deal with them in years to come.
I know there's a particular road that sort of pisses me off when I'm driving into Gawler area down to Everston. There's a nice little highway back road that comes in from there, and it's pretty much open land, but the speed limit on that road, and it's a beautiful road, I must admit, is 60 kilometers an hour. And I'm thinking,
I'm trying to figure out
no
what road you're talking about.
driveways, there's no houses, there's nothing on this road effectively until you get to the roundabouts at the other end, and it's 60. So, um, but I'm pretty sure those speed limits are made by bureaucrats, not by politicians anyway, but that was just something. That's the sort of thing that you're talking about, though, because that's the green belt area that you're discussing. That's there and over towards Two Wells Way, isn't it?
So you got Two Wells, Virginia. I mean, when you're getting up towards Buckland Park and things like that, that's where Riverlea is. I guess the soil gets a little bit more salty because it's near the Port River. Um, but then you got St Kilda as well. Building on that land is not as much of an issue as what it would be building in like Anglevale. Virginia's like losing that rural aspect. I know that the state government is looking at taking more rural land off of the farmers and rezoning it to residential. But again, like a lot of people don't understand the complexities of council and state government and federal government relationship. The councils are always copping flack for the rezoning, but the simple fact is councils are governed by that legislation. They're a legislated body, so they got to take guidance, or they do take guidance from the state and the federal government.
Isn't it actually more correct that when it comes to zoning and that, it's actually state government, or the councils do?
So SA Revenue, SA Revenue are the ones that at the end of the day approve the building estate. So if you're a building developer, as long as you tick all the boxes for council, they kind of expected to get it ticked off. I mean, some councils managed to successfully push back and say, no, we don't want this. But a lot of councils, sometimes they feel that their hands are tied because they are guided by obviously being a legislative body, and you've got the Local Governments Act. So that land that we should be encouraging people to farm, we're kind of trying to steer away from that. And obviously everyone else is going to the shopping centres and going into the shops and being able to buy your bread and being able to buy your zucchinis and bananas. You're not thinking about where they come from. But the fact is if we take away all our primary producers, and we are having to import everything, which is part of the problem with our manufacturing as well, yet again another issue, we are not going to be able to be self-reliant. And then we are going to be quite restricted on what we can export. And then if we can't import it because of whatever issues are happening around the rest of the world, then where are we going to get the food from?
Well, speaking of issues around the rest of the world, we've got the wonderful Chinese ships that were circumnavigating Australia just recently and doing some live firing and bits and pieces. So when you look at that, if there was to be a war break out and we're importing food, how hard is it to cut us off from importing food?
Well, we are an island at the end of the day, and when I've done an article on my my Facebook, and I hope you grab that and throw that on the website. And that was talking about the nuclear submarines that we're apparently going to get up and running. That's not until early 2030. And from that article, I was even pointing out that these subs that we are allegedly going to get, we've already started putting a down payment down on this. So instead of actually, you've got the Whyalla Steelworks, which is going out of business, right? Or it's losing money. Why aren't we building ships up there? And that doesn't have to be necessarily warships or anything like that. Like, why aren't we getting into the shipbuilding industry? We've got the iron ore. The problem is quite simply, power is so much. It takes a lot of energy to smelt steel. So we really need politicians to start pushing and start getting that momentum, not get involved in the businesses, but encourage Australians to start these businesses, get these ventures going so that we can become a lot more self-reliant, so that we can actually get those forces out. And I digress from the China thing. Chinese warships were going around the country, and why wouldn't they? Like we've been off the coast of China for how long?
Yeah.
So if you don't see it for what it is, which is primarily you can do it, we can do it too. And where was Albanese and the rest of the politicians calling it out? But because they can't call it out because we've been doing it, and we've been doing it longer than the Chinese. And
that's part of transparency, isn't it? That's what we're not hearing. So is that one of the things that you're looking to bring in with your particular run? If you were to get into Parliament and become one of those sitting members, how much transparency would you bring?
Unless it's got something to do with national security, it should be open to the people. Quite simply. I mean, when you look at things like, let's use a prime example that resulted in one nation coming to power, right, which was gun control. When the Port Arthur incident happened, then John Howard basically pushed a move, and Pauline Hanson came out of the basically swinging and got a large portion of people who were gun owners, etc., behind her. And that's where One Nation's birth was. That entire case has been like pushed aside. No one's allowed to talk to Martin Bryant. There's so many holes in that case, yet it's locked away for 95 years.
Yeah, why?
Why? It's not in the public interest for it to be locked away. Why is it locked away? So as far as transparency goes, I will be like a window, quite simply, unless it's national security and you've got a reason to know, which is, why wouldn't you want to know what happened and why there was no trial? Why no one allowed to speak to the guy? I'm just using this guy as an example. Yep. The Wuhan special, yet again, let's bring that one up. Protections for the pharmaceutical companies who are providing medicine which have caused harm. Like, why is that? There is a lot of things that happen within government which are questionable, yet no one questions them. They're there to represent us. And if I get into Spence and I'm representing the people for Spence, they want to know something and there's no reason for them not to know, I will do as much digging as I need to do to find out, because that's my job, isn't it? Like, if you want to know something and you go to your federal member or your state member and it's within their, or even your councillors, and it's within their grounds, or they can do the research or find out for you, it's their job to find out. Or if you want them to go and, fight for more pigs, and basically that's what they're supposed to do. So I will be transparent, mate, unless it has something to do with national security.
Which makes
yeah. So then I'll tell them. I'll say that. I'm not going to tell you because it's national security. So you're not going to know. I'm not telling you. I'll tell them why.
Yeah. Okay. So you're looking at this, if I see this right, you're going in as a representative, as in a true representative. In other words, you're really there to represent the people, not your own options. Is that correct?
Yes, like that's the guts of it. Like, obviously I have or I am in the process of putting together policies. I was of the mindset at one stage that the punters should be telling me what my policy should be, and I have a stance. But the simple fact is if I don't put something out there for people to have a look at, they're not going to tell me what they think. So you know, I've got a team. Like I am an independent. I'm running as an independent. I've got a team behind me. There are people helping me put this all together. And the election hasn't been called yet, but we're already got the ball rolling. And I've been building this for the last 5 years anyway. So I'm getting that experience. I'm getting that exposure, and I'm learning so damn much about politics. It is such a I'm trying to find the right words without being
Swearing?
it is a rabbit warren, and some of those rabbit warrens are not filled with too many nice things. So it needs to be corrected, and unfortunately, our political structure needs a shake up, and the people have to rise up. They have that ability. The electors have the ability to change that dynamic, but whether they choose to or not, I don't know, but I certainly hope to give them a good option.
Okay. So the FBN network here, just to make people fully aware, this is an impartial interview, even though I do know Kym and I am assisting him in the background. This interview is FBN. We will interview any politician who wants to come onto the channel and talk as well. And Kym's sitting himself back up, making himself more comfortable. But just to be clear, this is independent, and more than happy to do a second interview with Kym. And if anybody's got questions that they want to throw at him or accusations they want to make, like a bit of his history where he actually got proven innocent from a time when the police were trying to get him for something he was doing when he wasn't. But that'll leave people with questions. So now they have to research you, mate.
Well, if they want to know about that, we actually did an episode on the podcast. So I was a bit of a smart ass and a wanker, really, to the Channel 7 reporter Deanna Williams. And the story behind that is that, to put it simply, Deanna Williams was giving me the shits, to be honest. And she asked me about whether or not I was going to talk to them, and I said I was when it first started, but after everything, I certainly wasn't going to. And I told them that they could pay for my story. But you can check it out on Spotify for free on the hands-on experience, where Peter Rentoulis, who was, excuse me, I hope that didn't come through too clearly, was asking me the questions in regards to that incident. And that incident was where I was working in the cells. Joseph Ajang, who was a prisoner at the time, punched me in the face, and I did my training, and it was over in less than 6 seconds. So, but no, all this dirt's going to come out at some stage anyway. I'm sure they're going to attack me with it, especially if I get any momentum. And to be perfectly honest, come at me. I'm ready for you.
Good. And see, that's the point. The fact that you're open and honest about that is just one of the many things there. Now, one of the things that you ran with a bit last time, and probably again this time, is Australia's infrastructure. The fact that we basically don't have any.
It's not getting better, is it?
No.
Like in 3 years since we ran, Vince, it hasn't gotten any better, and I don't understand why Australians aren't starting to get the shits up and starting to say, hey, we need better. We've got a development out here in the northern suburbs right now where they're spending $1.2 billion on water infrastructure. Now, Riverlea, that place, those people that are living there have been having sewage pumped into a holding bay, basically, and pumped out of that holding bay every day and shipped off to Bolivar. Yeah, it's only just down Port Wakefield Road. Not a big deal, I guess, if you really think about it. But the simple fact is they didn't have sewage installed. Now, SA Water are going to put in that infrastructure now. So they're in the process of doing it. $1.2 billion being spent out here. In about 4 years' time, SA Water are going to need to do it again because it's barely going to be able to deal with the building that is occurring now. So, same with Curtis Road. You got Curtis Road already bursting at the seams, and now people are moved on to Dalkeith Road, which is a road covered in potholes. It's It's a responsibility of two different councils, and you've got people using that road now at a huge number because they need, and they're still doing more building developments. So when you talk about infrastructure, it's not getting any better, but people are not jumping up and down and making a noise, and they need to. They need to give a hard time to their members of parliament. And I hope that should I pull off a miracle and win a Labor seat, because it is going to be a very hard battle and an uphill one at that. But it's okay. I've done lots of contact drills. We will and hopefully get in there and start putting pressure on the state governments, the federal governments. But in saying that, you need to work together. Like all it doesn't matter who gets elected into parliament. They need to actually start working together for the betterment of their communities. And the representatives don't speak for their communities anymore. They speak for the parties. And that is not what the system was set up for. The Constitution was based so that members of parliament represented their constituents. That's not happening.
Now with this, Kym, too, you've got to get 100 signatures to run as an independent. Have you managed to achieve that yet?
No. I've only been doing it for about a week and a half. But I've got help. There are people helping me get it. And so far I've done some door knocking. The only problem is I'm actually out educating people also on how to vote. So you know me, mate, I can talk underwater. So I'll get into a conversation.
It's only when he falls off his jet ski, guys, just wondering.
Yeah, when I actually get a chance to get out on it, that's for sure. But I've been out. I've got 60 at the moment. I think then that's only been in a week and a half, so we're up to around about 60, and I will be over the next couple of weekends getting out and about, knocking on doors in the afternoons as well after work, trying to talk to people. So guys in Spence, if I happen to knock on your door, I'm not like your typical politician. Please don't slam the door in my face or chase me down the street with a rubber fist or anything, please.
Well, so if people wanted to help you out, give you signatures, bits and pieces, there is a contact form, I believe, on your website that they can contact you through that gets emailed to you. How many more people are you looking for to assist you in this run who would like to volunteer? And if so, what sort of things in the volunteering area are you looking for in particular?
Well, I'll be looking for volunteers in as many as I can get, because the more people that we have waving the Kym Hanton Independent for Spence, like I've always said to everyone, it's not about me as an individual, it's about us as a community. If you want to get involved, I'll find a use for you. We need scrutineers. We need people at the ballot boxes handing out. We need people pre-polling. So if you're not working during the day, when pre-polling gets called and you are available, let me know. I can use you. I'm looking at working with a couple of people who are running for the Senate, as well as like some other parties that are involved, like Family First and things like that. I'm trying to get in touch with Rennick as well. So there'll be other work and things to do. There's call flutes to be put up. I know that Malinauskas has made it illegal and not that you can't put call flutes up for the state election. But this is a federal election, and federal AEC laws trump state laws. So I hope to get a few of those up. But again, we're going to need, like, if you can, I've got a GoFundMe going as well. If you can help with that, that'd be fantastic, because I've got to pay for this stuff like flyers. If you can hand out flyers, big region, Powlowie to Williston, St Kilda, up to Gawler East and Hillbank. So there is a big region. I've got people already handing out flyers and putting them in letterboxes. We're going to get stickers made up and got a lot of things planned, and we've got a few feet on the ground, but the more the merrier. Bigger the army, the better. So to put it simply, you want to volunteer, you want to help out, reach out to me. and I'll put you in touch with the campaign manager and all that sort of stuff. And I'll also talk to you as well. So there are contact details. And then once we touch base, I'll flick you my phone number, and then you can contact me at any time.
Beautiful. So are you available to go to various locations and give a bit of a chat, like various clubs or volunteer organizations or whatever?
That was a bit of a fish hook, mate, and I'll bite on. Yeah, absolutely. If you want me to get out there and talk to you, groups, or even come out and talk to you as an individual, I'll come out to you. As long as you're in Spence. Obviously, if you're not in Spence, I'm not going to be coming out to Barker again, because that's a hell of a drive. But I'll come out and I will talk to you if you want to have that communication face to face. I prefer that anyway. And if you want me to come out and talk to, young voters, a group of young voters, and explain the voting system, you don't have to vote for me. But if you understand that voting system, I'm more than happy to do that, so that you can make a conscious vote. Like, you know where your vote is going, you know how it's working and what's going to happen with that vote once you put it in. And for crying out loud, don't donkey vote, because we have seen the clips of people sitting there rubbing shit out and stuff like that. Just vote in pen, make that vote. And another one that I keep pushing as well, if you're going to vote for the majors, then don't vote for Matt Burnell. Put a 1 next to my name, and then put Matt Burnell at 2, and then the Labor Party loses $2.75 per vote. Because come the next election, they're going to be getting paid $5 per vote, which is double, and it costs the taxpayer a ridiculous amount of money.
Well, in all fairness, though, if people are voting, and we always know that in the lower house, the voting is always goes down through the list, and at the bottom, if you put the last major parties at the bottom, by default, 99% of the time, they're going to get a vote either. So either way, they just don't get the $2 or $5 at the start.
Yeah.
So effectively, if you want to vote for a major party, if you put them down below, that means that the independents can get more chance of actually getting in if they're higher up. So I wouldn't put them as number 2 personally, but they're always going to get the vote, because I
wasn't recommending that Labor goes at number 2. I was just doing that more for the people that die hard Labor voters.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you can either vote for Matt Burnell, or you can vote for someone like me, who is going to get his nose dirty, is going to go in a bat for the North. Funnily enough, Matt Burnell has kind of stolen my slogan. Mine's from the North, for the North. His is fighting for the North. So, it's like, come on, get a little bit more creativity. But I guess he is a Victorian. He is from Mildura.
Ah, right. So does he actually live in the area now?
He does now, but the thing is this is the Labor safe seat, or is interpreted as a Labor safe seat. So obviously the Labor Party selected him, and then moved him down here, I guess. So he does live in the area. I'll give him that much. But is that by choice? Will he stay here? Should he lose? We will see.
Okay. Any other points that you want to raise that you think people need to be aware of?
Not that I can think of on the fly, but guys, just pay attention to what's going on. Politics is not the subject everyone loves. In fact, politics is something that most people hate. Most people hate politicians. Well, they impact on every single thing that you do in your life, whether you like it or not. The fact that we pay a ridiculous amount of taxes, the fact that a lot of our money, when you look at it, 75 cents out of every dollar goes to government in some way, shape, or form. If you want to see that change, there's only one thing you can do, and that's actually start being actively involved. And once the system is set, so to speak, the ship has been set right, if I can get into the seat of Spence, what that will do is, come next election, next federal election, what will happen is you will see more people rising up to take that charge because they will see that it can be done. But we can't do it. Like, I can't do it by myself. I need the people of Spence to actually want that change as well. And if you're happy about what these politicians are setting up for our kids or our future generations, then do nothing. Sit on your hands. But if you're not happy, then it's time to step up. And this is the time now, right now, this very moment. The moment that election gets called, I'm going to be making a hell of a lot of noise. And hopefully I've got a whole bunch of people standing behind me and alongside me, making that noise with me.
Okay. Now, that raises another. There is a significant number of people out there now who are aware of how the government's set up and how it represents itself, and that it's a corporation and that it is not following the proper, how do I say this without getting into trouble? Not following the constitutional arguments and arrangements that were originally done. So for these people who are going to say to you that you're going into politician as a politician, right? And I know that you're aware of these other issues. Why are you going in as a politician?
Well, simply, if you think you can change it by doing nothing, then you're a fool. If you are, and I'm willing to try to right the ship. And you're absolutely right. Some of our laws go against the very core constitution that we are supposed to go by. Quite simply, if you want to enact change, you need to be that change. You need to do something, and I'm trying to do something. So I think one of my co-hosts put it in this exact manner. An undercover cop goes in and goes into a criminal organisation or perceived criminal organisation. They're not going in there to commit the crimes. They're going in there to try to gather evidence or to correct the problems that are there. And that's what I aim to do. If there is corruption, I'll flame and call it out. I will not just sit there and go, this is okay. And there's no amount of I can't take money to the grave, and I give myself another 20 years. So I'm not in it for money. I think, and one of my drives obviously is that politicians need to have a pay freeze, in my opinion. Bureaucrats' pay packets need to be looked at very harshly. We're paying our bureaucrats far too much money. We're paying too much money for the upper echelon. And we need to correct that, because the people on the ground, like our teachers, our nurses and doctors, they need to be looked after. Our politicians do not. They get paid very well. And if they're not happy with their pay packet, well, there's a door. You're getting paid extremely well. So for those people that think that you shouldn't vote, you shouldn't get involved because the system's broken or the system's yeah, we know there's no Queen of Australia. She doesn't exist. It's a fantasy. However, if we are going to correct those problems, or we are going to correct those or repeal some of the laws that have been put in place, there's only one way to do it, and that's sitting in Parliament. And as corrupt as you may think the system is, that is how we fix it up. We get people in there, we repeal the laws that are wrong, we put in correct laws, and we follow the Constitution. And if we want to change the Constitution, we have a referendum, not one for the voice where we waste $450 million, but referendums that actually matter to the people. And that's how we fix it up. And until then, and until we do that, and until people actually start taking that actual effort, and not voting does not help us. Not voting helps them.
Yeah. That
helps them. They stay in power because less people are voting, less people are having a say. And guess what? If you believe in all the, that sometimes the voting's manipulated, you don't vote. That gives them space to manipulate the vote. Well, if you think that happens, because they've got all these names of people that haven't voted or potentially have just put in blank ballot papers, they can just fill them out themselves. Just putting it out.
Not saying that actually occurs.
I'm not saying it happens, but I'm just putting it out there that if it's there, and the opportunity is there, I'm sure there's some individuals out there that may actually do that.
Yeah, well, 1.3 million people didn't vote properly in the last election. So imagine if those people voted for somebody like yourself who's prepared to stand up and do it. That could have put somebody in that could be making those changes now.
Yeah.
I reckon that's a really powerful message to leave this interview off on at this stage. I'd like to invite you back to FBN again for another chat once you start getting fully functional and the election's called, if that's okay.
Anytime, mate. I've always got time for you.
All right. Yeah, he says that now, but then when I try and ring him, no, I'm only kidding. Effectively, though, thank you very much, Kym, for doing that and for bringing out the point that you are aware of what's going on and that you're actually going in more or less as an undercover. So you're there to fight for the people.
I don't know if it's too undercover, but I can guarantee you that every single sitting member of parliament that is sitting there just trying to further their own nest does not want somebody like me in there. They do not want a normal everyday Aussie getting in there because quite simply I'm going to rattle the boat. And I'm, I've said this and I'm going to say it again, within weeks of me getting into Matt Burnell's office and making it mine, if I manage, again, it's going to be a hard slog, and it's going to be like everyone's telling me it's impossible and can't be done. Well, let's see about that. We can do it, but I will be putting forward, should I get in that seat, a freeze on parliamentarians' pays, and any past, present, and future politicians receive absolutely no residual payments after they're out of parliament. That's one of my drives, because that taxpayer shouldn't be paying for past politicians, and Turnbull's not going to want that. Abbott, I think, is another one that's not going to want that, and Albert Squeezy, I think, still qualifies for the old scheme that they used to have. All that stuff needs to be taken away from them because it's costing us, the taxpayers, and every politician that doesn't support that is not in parliament for the right reasons. So I'll leave it on that note.
Yep, no, 100%. I'd like to thank you very much for coming along, Kym, and having a chat with us today. And we had to do this on Zoom because we had a little issue with our StreamYard system that didn't want to work on Kym's end. So we've basically recorded this, and I will edit it up and put it out. Pretty much no editing, just going to put a trailer on the front or tail on the back. So with that, people, I would suggest this is Kym Hanton. This is a gentleman who's running as an independent for Spence. If you live in Spence, you probably need to get to know him a bit better. Find out his rough edges, find out his good stuff and what he's about, and basically start making a change for your environment, for your area. So with that, I thank you again for this interview, and hopefully you can use this to your advantage. With that, from the FBN network, which is the Freedom Broadcasting Network, we're here to do stories for people, get the truth out there, both sides of the fence. We're trying to be independent as possible because we need to have an independent media that's running in our current system. So from the FBN network, we say cheers. Thank you very much, Kym, and we'll catch you all later.
Anytime.